Thank you. That was wonderful. So, my dear, dear friends, I love you so much. And if you have glanced at the news this week, you know the weight of the world is heavy. In Gaza, we see starvation and war, stories that are almost too painful to read. A tsunami sweeping through, an earthquake shaking another, fires swallowing homes, and political upheaval here in the US makes our voices sharper and our patience shorter. And even closer to home, our wider church just elected new leadership, with Bishop Curry and Secretary Mills coming in to do a new thing. Both of these new leaders came out of the TEAM program, which is for emerging ministries. And so we see people with new gifts and new pathways into church leadership now helping to shape our own community. And we're still going to be figuring out what faithfulness will look like in the midst of all this change. And even here at St. Matthew, you're a congregation catching your breath after a busy summer with trips to Europe, VBS wrapped up, backpacks already lined up against the door because school has started. And then there's also the personal weight that we all carry. These past months, since I've been with you, have been filled with transitions. Goodbyes and hellos, beauty and chaos, and sometimes beautiful chaos. In less than a week, in fact, next Saturday, I will be ordained and installed as the pastor at Our Savior's in Lafayette. Thank you. And I will get to share a ministry with that blessed community. And words, which those of you who know me well know often comes easily for me, don't seem adequate for the joy that I feel starting this work and fulfilling a call to ministry that has been on my heart for years. But to get to this point, so much had to happen. Interviews and meet and greets, council votes and congregational meetings, a move and a new school for my daughter Cora. And in the midst of all of that transition and joy, and in fact, just the day before I received word that I was to be called to this place, my dear friend Jason Pettit completed his 2-year-long battle with cancer and died. And he left those of us who loved him behind, grieving and grateful for the beauty of knowing him and of loving him. So it's been a lot. And sometimes it's all so much that questions will bubble forth, and I expect that happens for you too. How do we keep our footing in a world like this? How do we live without being pulled under? And Paul's words in Philippians, they don't exactly offer an escape plan, as much as I might like one, but they do offer a strategy that we might try to stand firm in the middle of all of it, steady, grounded, unshaken. That even as we behold the beauty and the wreckage of life, we are held by a God who loves us beyond measure. So as Paul introduces this practice, he says it with enthusiasm. Celebrate God every day, all day, yes, I mean it. And I want us to remember that Paul didn't write this like sitting on the sunny shores of the Sea of Galilee. He wrote this letter from prison. Paul isn't talking about a fake it till you make it kind of joy. We are being invited into something bold and countercultural. This joy says, I refuse to let despair write the end of my story. And this joy doesn't just drop in your lap. You have to practice it. You make space for it on purpose. So, in the midst of all this transition, in June, my family went on a camping trip to Pinecrest. And while we were there, we visited a creek that is at the trailhead we used to leave for backpacking trips with my dad. So it was very familiar, but it was also changed by time and by fires and by floods. And as I watched the kids with my mom while some of the other adults went hiking, I could feel my irritability rising. I was tired. I was dirty. There were mosquitoes that seemed no amount of bug spray could deter. And in that moment, I knew I had options, and honestly, realizing that I had options was a minor miracle in itself. And so, in that moment, I decided I was going to have fun on purpose. That I would get into the bitter cold creek in my clothes and plunge. That I would let those icy waters wash away not just the dirt on my feet, but the irritation in my heart. And the shocking thing is that it worked. Shifting my behavior before I could shift my attitude, it allowed me to re-engage joyfully with those around me, with the beauty of the earth, even with the dirt on my feet, though maybe not with the mosquitoes. These acts of practiced joy, of having fun on purpose, they prepare us for what Paul asks us to do next. Make it clear to everyone you meet that you're on their side, working with them, not against them. That's gentleness. And it's a gentleness that's not about being soft-spoken or avoiding hard truths. It's a gentleness that's about a steady, non-anxious presence. It's living with your heart unarmored, vulnerable, woundable. And we're not encouraged to just be gentle, just to work with the people who deserve it and think like us and we like. No, this mandate to gentleness extends to everyone. And that includes you. And this can be tricky for some of us. The voice in our head can be loud and demanding and demeaning sometimes. We can talk to ourselves in ways we would never dream of talking to our children, to our partners, our family, our friends. We struggle sometimes to find room to love ourselves, to celebrate our successes, to be on our own side. We've been conditioned to believe that harshness will get results with ourselves, even though all the research shows that harshness and bullying does not generate results for yourself. When it comes to ourselves, for some reason, a lot of us still cling to this harshness as a strategy for control. And that's why it can sometimes be helpful to imagine when we're talking to ourselves that we're talking to a friend. I know a few weeks ago I shared some thoughts that I was stuck in with a group of friends, and they were indignant. I said, "You don't talk to my friend that way. That is not okay." And I hadn't even realized I was doing it. So sometimes it can help to put ourselves in that mindset, particularly when we need to advocate for ourselves in doctors' offices, in boardrooms, or even in our own homes and relationships, to imagine that we're doing it for a friend who needs our help, that we are on our own side. And I wonder how doing that might change things for you. I wonder what you would say to yourself as a friend, what gentleness might look like in your everyday life. So then, Paul continues. He says, God is right here, as close as your next breath. God is not just near in space, but God is near in care, near in love, near in moments you think you're alone. Even here, even now, in every cell, in every breath, God is here. So resting in that nearness of God, we hear these next lines differently. Don't worry yourself to pieces. God is near. Instead, tell God every detail of what's going on. God is near. He already sees it. Shape your worry into prayer and let your gratitude spill over at the same time. This exhortation, it's not about shoving our fears into a corner. It's about carrying them into God's presence along with our gratitude. Kind of picture it like this. It's like I'm setting two baskets down at God's feet. And one is brimming with everything that keeps me up at night. The negative talk in my head, my worries, my regrets. And the other is filled with everything that makes me want to say thank you. The beauty of a sunrise, the smell of my daughter's hair, the way my soul soars when I sing. All of it belongs there. All of it belongs at the feet of God. And here is what Paul predicts will happen when we do this. He says, before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will settle you down. Like it did for me in the cool creek waters. It's not a magic eraser for trouble, this practice. It's not a way to spiritually bypass through anxiety or depression. But this practice can act as an anchor in the middle of it all. It's that deep breath that you didn't know you were holding. So earlier, I told you a bit about my friend Jason. And over a year before he died, he called me and he asked me if I would lead his memorial service when the time came. You see, he wanted to be sure that whoever was talking about him really knew him and wouldn't try to turn him into something that he wasn't, wouldn't try to make him into a saint that wasn't the true to who he was. And so, even though I hoped it wouldn't happen for a very, 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 very long time, I said yes. And on July 20th, in the midst of massive transition in my family's life, I worked with my friends and my colleagues from St. John's in Sacramento to honor our friend and to give a space for his family and for all of us to honor him too. And somehow, among all the details and the plans, and while leading and singing and being completely enveloped in the wall of sound that feels unique to the Sacramento Gay Men's Chorus, I could feel my heart soften. That my grief could be with me even while I led. Somehow I was able to exhale that deep breath that I was holding, and I was filled with God's peace rather than my own anxiety on the inhale. So then Paul says it straight. He gives us something new here. You'll do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. Now, as someone who grew up with Amy Grant, I have it memorized just a little bit differently, right? Whatever is lovely and pure, whatever is noble, whatever is true, anything excellent and worthy of praise. Think of all those things. And this isn't about pretending that the bad doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let it be the only thing that we see. Sometimes we need to make a list. Actually write down the good, the beautiful, the just so we can remember that it's still there. Because the world is a lot. And we're called to confront injustice and care for one another in the midst of it. But we're also called into a new way of being. So Paul closes this section with, "Put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard, saw, and realized. Do that, and God will work it all into something wonderful." So look around. Here at St. Matthew, I have been blessed to see people who show me what this looks like, who practice gentleness with the people they meet, who somehow have the ability to make everyone who they talk to feel like they're on their side. You are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses to this beauty and truth in the world. And I wonder who you think of when that comes up. Who has modeled joy in hardship, gentleness under pressure, peace in the storm? Now, Paul ends with a blessing that still holds true today that I hope we take with us and enjoy. Receive and live in the grace of Jesus Christ. Not grace for everything is solved. Not grace for perfect, polished version of yourself. Grace for you right now. Grace that holds you steady. Grace upon grace. So, my dear friends, celebrate God. Be gentle with yourself and with each other. Pray your worries and your gratitude all together, and rest in the peace that only God can give. Keep your eyes fixed on what is good, and watch for the saints among you, because even here, even now, especially here, especially now, God is near. Will you pray with me? O God of joy and gentleness, we bring you the whole of our lives, the things we can't stop smiling about, and the things that keep us up at night. Teach us to see you in the middle of it all, in the quiet breath, in the unexpected kindness, in the peace we can't explain. Help us to fix our eyes on what is true and beautiful. Help us stand steady in your grace, and help us to be gentle with everyone we meet, because you are right here, closer than our next breath. We trust you with our tomorrows. We thank you for today, and we walk out of this place held in your love. Amen.